Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we're going over the ArriveCAN scam. It's starting to break out. There's a lot of scandal going on here. There's obviously somebody's broken the law. Multiple people, it looks like, within the government, subcontractors, you name it. So I'm going to try to break down as much as I understand this as possible. It's very confusing and there's more information coming out daily at this point. But as we can see here, I made a little bit of a chart so it makes a little bit of sense. So first off, we've got the government of Canada, and they hired 3 subcontractors, and I can't quite figure out, it seems like maybe Dalian hired GC Strategies, but either way, you've got Dalian, this Coradix, and GC Strategies. Now, I've got the different dollar amounts here. These guys have been hired since 2013 for the last 10 years, only $293K, so not that much compared to, say, Dalian, which was hired in 2019. Through 2023 has been paid $20.3 million. And then you've got GC Strategies, probably the one most of you guys know the most because of this scumbag here, Christian Firth. In 2022, they were paid $13.6 million, and 2023, they were paid $9.4 million. Now, some of you may know this guy because he's the scumbag guy who said, when he was talking about Cameron McDonald, you can see here, this is kind of the employee line. You've got these 2 employees of the government, and then these are employees as well. In testimony, when Christian Firth was brought to Parliament, he talked about Cameron McDonald and his relationship with him, saying that he never met with him at a cottage. And it turns out he later admitted that he met with him at his chalet, but not his cottage. It was never referred to as a cottage.
I'm sure that the millions of Canadians who either are watching this or will learn about this in the press or seek out the transcript of this particular meeting will be very, very grateful that the RCMP has access to this particular evidence. What I can understand is why you would take active steps in misleading this particular committee and Canadians with respect to your role as it relates to fraud and forgery with respect to modifying without permission and consent these transcripts, but the resumes to the government. What I can't understand is why you would deliberately lie to this committee on a very innocent question that was put to you by my colleague, Mr. Barrett, when he asked you if you knew whether or not Mr. Cameron McDonald from the CBSA had a cottage. And you said no. Do you want to reflect on that answer?
Yeah, Mr. McDonald has never referred to it as a cottage. It's a chalet. It's not a cottage.
For that clarification, Mr. Firth.
French is so useful.
Are you kidding me?
This guy's such a slime ball. Like, this guy's got to be going to jail at this point. So let's break this down. The government hires all these IT firms. Christian Firth, this guy's basically just a headhunter, recruiter. He hires Bottler. Now, Bottler is co-founded by these 2. Now, Bottler is the one that basically makes ArriveCAN, and they're confused why the government hired GC Strategies to hire them. Why didn't they just hire them directly? They got a whiff of something going on, so they reported this to Antonio Utano, who works in the government. Now, these 2 guys actually worked together at one point at the Canada Border Services Agency. Between these 2, we've got the Assistant Deputy Minister and the Director General of Health Canada, etc. So these guys are not exactly like super low on the totem pole. They're also not at the top. Now, it seems that they report to these 2, Aaron O'Gorman and Mindone. And then these are higher up in the government of Canada. The government pays GC Strategies a ton of money. Christian Firth then goes and hires Bottler to do the work while pocketing most of, or a good portion of, the cash.
One area that you have been presented with, sir, that gives me great discomfort as a parliamentarian is the issue regarding resumes. And quite frankly, sir, whether you call it a mistake, whether you call it a lack of intent, whether you refer to it as an embellishment, in my respectful submission, sir, that is a lie. And no one believes you. No one believes you in this room. We have national reporters in this room, and I doubt very much that they believe you, because your story is so fantastic. is simply worthy of unbelief. You, sir, at all material times only received one version of the CV from both Ritika Dutt and Mr. Amir Moravej. One CV, one resume that was not ambiguous, that was not confusing, and you took it upon yourself to manipulate both of those resumes to ensure that Bottler qualified for government funding. You did that without the express permission or consent of both Bottler's executives, and in so doing, sir, you have committed a serious criminal offense. Do you have anything to say about that, or are you going to continue on this line that I made a mistake?
Yeah. I'm going to tell the truth, and it was a genuine mistake because there are multiple versions of the resume. They may have given me one, but as a recruiter, you make different versions of resumes, and the wrong one was sent through.
Sir, who made multiple versions? You or somebody else?
I did.
Now, there's audio records between Cameron McDonald and Christian Firth with these quotes I've got here. Please work with Christian. Let Christian work his magic. This comes from Cameron McDonald talking about Christian Firth. And on the going the opposite direction, we have Christian Firth saying, I just want to make sure that he gets taken care of, right? Talking about Cameron McDonald. So obviously, based on that, it seems like Cameron McDonald is not sitting in a good situation. Now, both of these two were kind of put in the hot seat here. They were provided a government-funded lawyer dealing with these this whole situation, but then when they were put before Parliament, they named Min Doan, and they said that Min Doan threatened them on a phone call, and they were worried, and they had reported this.
GC Strategies clearly got a very good deal here, so it really matters in terms of getting to the bottom of this, who made the decision to hire GC Strategies. Now, I understood in your opening statement, both of you said that Min Doan was responsible for that decision. Was my understanding correct?
Yes. Correct.
You're both nodding?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Doan very clearly and very explicitly testified before this committee when he appeared on October 24th that they were investigating who, trying to find out who, and to his knowledge, they weren't aware who. So to be clear, based on your testimony, Mr. Doan was lying when he appeared before the committee.
I don't understand, Mr. Chair and honorable members, how they could be investigating for a year who made the decision on ArriveCAN. It's quite clear, and if they had asked anybody on our team, they would have said the same thing.
You sort of implied that Mr. Doan wanted to make you the fall guy for what happened here. Would that be a correct interpretation of your version of events, that he made a decision and that someone somewhere decided that you two were going to be the ones made to wear this, and therefore not supported by the department and made to appear responsible for the decision? Is that your version of events?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I felt incredibly threatened on that phone call with Min Doan on October the 28th. I talked to my old supervisor and then my boss on Monday and Tuesday morning following that. I think Mr. Utano can tell you that he had a very similar experience with Mr. Doan as well.
So to both Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano, although you've not been sworn to tell the truth, when you attend committee, part of parliamentary privilege, there's a component that you are required to tell the truth. You are required to give us fulsome answers. So I just wanted to put that on the record because I know you have legal counsel present. Both of you have independent legal counsel, is that correct?
We have legal counsel.
Yes. Is it from the DOJ or is
No,
it
not
private
private.
counsel?
We weren't provided with any support from the federal government when this happened whatsoever, so we had to go get our own support.
They also mentioned that Aaron O'Gorman is involved in this as well. So then 2 weeks later, Aaron O'Gorman takes away their government-funded lawyers and also removes their security clearance. Yeah, I don't know. This is a mess.
Can I ask both of our witnesses just very briefly? Min Doan has said he's proud of the ArriveCAN app. Is that your position as well? Are you both proud of the ArriveCAN app?
Yes, I'm very proud of the app. And I'll, if I may, I would just expand on that a little bit.
I don't have a huge amount of time, so you've given your...
Very quickly, the future of travel, and many countries are doing this, are all reliant on an application of this type of nature. Getting advanced information on people is critical.
Okay.
To
Yeah, I mean, my question was about the ArriveCAN app specifically, but go ahead, Ms. O'Gorman. Thank you for your response, Mr. Osowski.
Continue to use it on a voluntary basis. About 300,000 travelers a month are using it.
Are you proud of it?
It worked. It performed. It did its job.
It's just yes or no. Are you proud of it?
Yes.
Okay. Back to my previous line of questioning. So Ms. O'Gorman, I think you understand that when it comes to issues of conflict of interest, public servants have to avoid the reality and the appearance of conflict of interest. And I think a similar principle would apply to professional retaliation, that it's important to avoid the reality and the appearance of people facing professional retaliation for speaking to this committee. You know, by analogy, sometimes the horse's head is in the bed just because it's a convenient place to put it, but more often than not, it might be interpreted as a message.
And that the committee is hungry for all kinds of answers and information, and I totally understand that. But I think there's an appropriate balance to be struck in terms of ensuring a fair process for all the people involved. And so I think there's some thought that could be given to that in terms of the demands of information versus the due process that needs to unfold.
And Ms. O'Gorman, you alluded to the idea that we need to have, faith in disciplinary processes as well. We need to be assured, each of us, that if there's wrongdoing, that there will be, you'll have to meet, the decisions, and you'll have to feel the repercussions of that. And I have faith that that's going to happen. And I'm just wondering, do you have faith that that will happen as well?
That will happen.
Great. Well, that's all my questions. Thank you very much.
Has the committee come back to you already and flagged other contracts that are of concern?
So the committee is forward-looking. We are reviewing documents relating to contracts on ArriveCAN and the billing around that. To your question, I have the internal investigation that will be canvassing how CBSA was engaging with contractors during this period, not limited to Bottler GC strategies. So I look forward to those conclusions. I look forward to...
When do we expect to have those conclusions? I mean, this could run for years, right? We don't want that. We want to make sure that we get results. That's what this committee wants.
I'm very impatient. I need to make sure I don't translate that impatience into undue pressure.
What's also a little confusing here, if you add up all these numbers, this is 23 million, 20, so that's 43 million, 43.3, add in this 300K, 43.6 million. I don't know where the remaining 11 million is. So it's getting pretty confusing who is actually at fault here. It definitely seemed that Cameron McDonald and Antonio Otuno, they seem like they're in hot water. Obviously, GC Strategies, Christian Firth is guilty of many crimes, including changing the resumes of the Bottler founders. Now, what's interesting here is Garnet Genius is going after Erin O'Gorman for her changing the security clearance and removing government-funded lawyers of these two just 2 weeks after they named her. So they're all pointing fingers at each other at this point, but just take a look for yourself. It's hard to know at this point who's in the right and who's in the wrong.
We had at this committee on November 7th, Mr. McDonald testifying that you and that CBSA lied about who was responsible for choosing GC Strategies. 20 days after that, they received a letter saying that they were under investigation. And this was a new letter to them. And then about a month after that, they were advised that you had made the decision that their legal fees would not be covered. So you can tell us that that was not professional retaliation for their testimony before the committee. And whether it was purely intended as retaliation or not requires us to assess your motivation, something that's obviously difficult to do externally. But don't you think it obviously looks like retaliation?
I'm not retaliating against anybody. I'm trying to find out what happened.
Do you think it looks like retaliation that these events happened to occur that had severe negative implications for their career immediately following their testimony before this committee?
Confident that all decisions that were taken by the accountable people. You reference legal
I'm
fees.
confident that you're
I
not
have
answering
taken-
the questions, though. My question was, would you not agree that this looks like a scheme to retaliate and punish public servants who were critical of you, your leadership, and others within CBSA?
Suggesting that it is, and I'm telling you that I'm not retaliating against anybody.
I don't really believe you.
Yeah, it's hard to know at this point. There's a whole lot of corruption scandal in the government, but what else are you going to expect here? Just trying to squeeze as much money as possible out of us, giving it to their buddies. Christian Firth, man, that guy is just caught red-handed in multiple ways. As Canadians, we've lost 100% faith in the RCMP to actually act and, hold these people to account. And what does that mean for our country? It's kind of pushing us down this road where, is this going to turn into a guerrilla enforcement? Do the people have to come out with pitchforks to get things done? Because is that what it takes? 1,000 of us to show up with pitchforks at the House of Commons and or the Parliament building at GC Strategy's headquarters, which is just two dudes and some guy's second room in his house. Like, what is it going to take? But as citizens, we've lost faith in the government, in the RCMP, and the rule of law. It doesn't seem to matter if you do the right thing, if you do things honestly and by the law. And the government is starting to set a precedent that it's better to just lie, cheat, and steal and break the law as much as possible because the law doesn't matter. And that is the unfortunate state of our country. Got nothing else for you. If you guys want to chill out with some relaxing boot steps in the forest, I got Silent Hiking channel. Be sure to check that out. If not, there's some more Trudeau madness here. There's always more. It's hard to keep up with it, honestly. Be sure to subscribe, thumbs up, stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you in the next one.